Welcome to Where Process Meets Application. I'm your host, Chanda-Louise Otone. This is episode 4. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This month we have Mellany Paynter as our guest. She's an entrepreneur, civil engineer, website developer, wellness guru. You name it, she does it. She's awesome. You guys are in for a treat. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. All right, let's go.
Well, like Chanda said, I'm Mellany Paynter. I am Trini to the bone. Let me just put that out there one time before we get into anything. I am what I term myself as a creative entrepreneur. And what that means really is that I have been able to take my civil engineering degree from the real HU, let me say that, and match it up with my love and passion for writing. And that really happened very late in my life. And so I'm happy I was able to merge two things that I really, really enjoy doing. So part of the civil engineering side is project management, which Chanda, you're very familiar with, and emerging those into my writing projects that I do for clients. And so that's basically it about me. So for the last, I want to say, decade, that's what I've been doing.
That's
Yes.
awesome. Okay, so you're saying writing projects. What type of writing projects do you do?
So I write on a daily basis. I write for big and small companies. I write for individuals. I also create websites and create copy for websites. So even though I get to do a little bit of creative graphic work, a lot of the other part of the work is coming up with using words to really help people shine. I put it
Hmm.
like that. Hmm.
Okay, I love that. So, what I'll say is like, what inspired you to get into that space? What gave you the courage to transition from civil engineering to then going into an entrepreneur path and becoming a creative?
It wasn't really a it wasn't really anything that inspired, more so I would say out of necessity. So I lost my mom 10 years ago, and in losing my mom, I took some downtime. I totally left civil engineering, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna just pass the healing. Let me, just take some time out. And in that time out, I had already had, I was journaling like for over 3.5 years, and I ended up in New York here. And a friend said to me, why don't you write a book and put it out there for people? And I'm like, people don't want to hear about my grief, because my book is Dancing at the Crossroad, and it's really about my journey going through grief. I've been through all 7 stages of grief after my mom passed suddenly. And I said, oh, that's an idea. So I started taking all of my notes and journal notes from everywhere and compiling it together into this neat little book that is really a guide, a journal, a guiding journal, because it tells my story, but it also helps the reader to write their own story, or
Hmm.
make their own notes as they read the chapters. And through that, I had to tap into New York City's entrepreneurial crowd. And I started trying to figure out, how do I market this book? Where can I tap in? So I used to attend marketing meetings all over the city. And then I wanted to write some more. So I would attend writing groups as well. And I started to just like reach out and collaborate with a bunch of different people. And someone said to me, why don't you, well, how are you not creating something in tech? Are you not a tech entrepreneur? And I'm like, what does that mean? Because I hadn't really heard of that. But in New York, the state of New York business is that everybody's doing something on a different scale. And so tech entrepreneurship was like this new buzzword at the time. There was there's Silicon Valley out in California. And in New York, we have all of these young millennials at the time who were building apps for the various things, just for like pictures coming off of your phone and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, so let me think about this. What are my skill sets? I also needed to start working because my savings was severely depleted. um, so I started selling the book, and I started also um, figuring out ways to kind of make money. So the first thing that I tapped into really was helping other entrepreneurs who or aspiring authors who also wanted to write books, because I got on this want to be an author train, and it took off, but it wasn't without a lot of downside and failures, things that I
Okay.
spent way too much money on, way too much time on, all of that stuff. And so because I had learned a lot, that was a huge learning curve in that process. I said to myself, you know what? I can help somebody else do this. So that was like my first foray really into um, kind of merging the two things. And let me
Okay.
just go back a little bit. When I first got to New York, I wanted to create, I was in travel mode, hiatus mode, and I wanted to create a community that reflected that. So it was, it was lifestyle
Mm.
based on travel, based on if you've been through something rough in your life, you take a time out and do something different. And so I was building this company called Her Billions, which was kind of like it's you, her, as in the woman, but it's also you pushing towards making these billions, this $1 billion empire. And
Wow.
the basis of that was really to help people organize. And I used mind mapping as the basis of that company. That didn't really go anywhere because I had teamed up with a friend who really wasn't putting work into it.
Okay.
And I felt at the time that I couldn't do it alone. So that turned into, then I focused on the book because I realized I took that same mind map and skill set and I created a whole dimension of how to create this book. And I used that with clients. That sort of became this thing because I still have it. I still have that. That's the chart that I use. If you're here with me, this is the chart that we're going to use to help you build out this book. So there's the marketing piece, there's the legal aspect, so when you put all of that into a visual and you could take that and print it and put it on your wall, there's no way you can lose. And that was the part, and I know you understand this, that was part of process for me in terms of the project management side. And then there was, how do we develop this book? So the two things just merged, and it was, I don't say by coincidence because I don't believe in coincidences, but it wasn't a vision that I had that said, okay, I'm going to merge these two
Right.
things, So that's how it really came about.
So it
And
sounds very organic.
it was and still is a very organic process. I'm a
Hmm.
firm believer in doing what makes you feel good and not, because as entrepreneurs, we have this tendency to go online and we see other people doing stuff and we're like, oh, this person is doing this. So you get off your train and get on somebody else's, but they're not stopping at your stop. Or you might be going a little further than them or have to stop earlier than they are. But you won't know that if you don't focus and keep your focus for your path in life, because we all have that path in life. And it's very difficult, I would say, as an entrepreneur, but you have to do it.
So let me ask you this question. So what I'm getting actually is that you have the creative aspect, and because of your project management background, your civil engineering background, you have a very process-oriented background as well. So I can relate in that aspect. I'm curious, as you've gone through the process of your entrepreneurial journey, have there been things that you've noticed about, like let's say, just anything that you've noticed come up that's been a consistent thing, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, how you show up, are there any obstacles that you've seen that are continuously occurring or have occurred in your journey?
I would say discipline is the biggest one. I have had many friends and other people tell me, oh my gosh, how do you get up every day? You work from home. How do you get up every day and do this? I'm like, I don't have a choice. If I don't work, I don't make money. That's one, but the motivation is not the money. I just happen to enjoy what I do. So for me, the motivation is getting up and making sure I create a list of all of the things that I want to accomplish for the day. And once I have that list, I can now say I'm going to spend an hour here, 15 minutes there, take a break here, and throughout my day. Do I have days when that doesn't happen? Yeah. A lot of the times it really doesn't happen that way. But that has kept me sort of motivated over time. Also, I'm lucky to have my cousin Joy. who is a source of inspiration because she has a very bubbly attitude. She's also an entrepreneur. We've been working together side by side, so to speak, since maybe 2017. And I think we both kind of play off each other. I think the accountability partnership that we have developed helps me to, if I fall short on something or I don't feel like I'm in the mood in a particular week, I have her to tell me, get on it. We don't have time. We have this goal, blah, 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 blah. And I do the same for her. And so we kind of help tag team each other and help each other out. So I think accountability is one. And then you just have to have your own discipline and motivation. It can't come from outside. It has to be something that comes from within. You have to want to win every day when you wake up, you know. So.
Okay, that's wow. Okay, so then just to kind of recap, so discipline, that consistent motivation, and then also having that accountability with your partner, the joy.
Mm-hmm.
So having someone who has a inspirational, bubbly personality that you can bounce off of continues to encourage you and push you forward.
Right, but also somebody who has similar work ethic. Because somebody could be bubbly all day, but they want to go outside and skate or play games or ride, you know, or just run. But they also have to have that ethic to sit still and know when to sit still as opposed to know when to keep moving, you know, that kind of way. So I think work ethic is another big one.
Okay, I love that. So then, so essentially, what you're now bringing into the picture is that sense of community and relationship.
Yes.
Having the right relationships, the right community to keep you forward. And then for you, in that sense, it's the person having a similar work ethic.
Yep.
Okay.
I want to add.
So
can I just add something? As you said, community. I want to say before, just a little bit earlier, I spoke about tapping into the New York City entrepreneurial crowd. I have to say that that has also been a tremendous help because I had relationships with these people. I formed relationships from these in-person events that I went to for like 2 or 3 years. And all these years later, when I say like 6 years later, I can call on them at any time and say, hey, you're in this space. Tell me what I need to do. Or they will keep sending me stuff to say, Mel, there's a tech, something going on. You have a digital website. Tap into this, pitch. If you don't know how to pitch, I'm going to send you a couple lines, get it together, just come. It's not a big deal. You just want to show your face, you want to practice. And so I've had that wheel that turns as well that has helped me to know that there's a whole community out there who kind of has my back. And that's one of the things I love about New York. It's like we push each other, we help each other elevate from strength to strength. You don't feel like you're alone walking this path by, you know, on your own. You have people.
Okay, so let me ask, let's dig deeper into that. What are the key characteristics that you've noticed within your community? So you mentioned one being work ethic, and then you're also mentioning, I think, the support structure, potentially, yes. Right? So work ethic, structure, and then also inspiration. Are there any other key elements that you look into when looking for community or being within a community?
I think just a mindset to want to win. It's like a huge, huge one. Like you and those other people have to have that mindset. It's like you might not know where this thing that you're doing is going to end up. You're not so sure where this path that you're on is going to end up, but you're walking it anyway. It's like blind faith, but you have people walking with you, and those people have that same mindset. We all on a similar path. We're alone but together, but we're not stopping. And if somebody does stop, you kind of like there to be like, girl, just one more step. You're probably about to strike gold. Just keep going, you know. And I think that's what it is. It's that mindset to want to win every day. So you get up, you do your thing, but they also get up and they do their thing. And then you see somebody elevate and they start getting recognized by, you know, larger crowds or larger companies. And you're like, oh my God, she made it. So can I. And it's just that built-in motivation to just keep winning.
Okay, all right, so let's recap. So discipline, motivation, community. Within community, it's having like-minded people. They don't have to be doing the exact same thing that you're doing, but if the mindset is on the same page, you guys can walk together. So they're providing that support, the inspiration, and I love what you said, as in seeing them basically succeed is inspiration and motivation and encouragement to know that, hey, we're on the same journey together. That's going to propel me as well.
Right.
Okay.
I want to
That's
make a
awesome.
reference to. Can I
Go
make a
ahead.
reference? Can I make a
Yes,
reference
ma'am.
to Issa Rae? She's like one of my mentors in my head. I had the opportunity to meet her when she wrote her book, Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl, and I always mention her as one of my mentors because I saw where she came from and where she is now. And she couldn't do that on her own. She did that with community. And I just listened this past weekend. She was on an NYU panel talking about for a film forum, and she was talking about, you know, at her level right now, because she's obviously making bank, owns a restaurant, has two production companies, I think, and a bunch of
She
other.
partners for like a hairline. I think
Right,
she's co-owner of a hair.
exactly.
Yeah.
So she has a lot, she has many different projects and a lot of businesses that she's owner of. She's a CEO heading all of these different things. And she still says that when she gets up every day, she doubts herself. And to me in my head, I was just like, girl, what? You still doubting yourself and you own all of this? But it's just that level of humility. And she talked about having the people who started with her. She said the people who stayed are the people who had the same mindset as her, who didn't mind her being elevated and they being the ladder underneath to help push her up. Because once she gets up there, she's going to reach back and pull them up. And that's that mindset that I'm talking about. That's that thing that we have to have.
I love that. Okay. So then that you know what? So then how do you also keep an eye on, like when you reflect on your community, right? How do you measure or keep an eye on, okay, this is still the space for me to continue to be in? You know, do you ever assess and say, you know what, this isn't quite right, I need to transition? You know, what does that look like for you?
That is always a moving thing for me. Every day I do it. Every single day I figure out, is this the right space for me? Are these people helping me, or am I helping them? Am I giving them, you know, of myself what they need? And is it a reverse, vice versa? Because I feel like sometimes the thing that I guess, just as in life in general, you start out with friends, but you don't end up with those same friends at the end of the day, right? And that's at every segment of your life. And we go through this change all of the time. So just this morning, I was up at 4, I think, and there's a project that I'm involved in, and I don't think I feel like I'm giving it 100%, or I feel like the rest of the people involved, my team, may not think I'm giving 100%. But there are some dynamics that need to be worked out. And I said to myself, do you want to continue with this, or do you not want to continue with it? And I think those are the junctures that we reach in life, that we have to make those hard decisions, especially as an entrepreneur. Do I continue with this team? Do I let somebody off the team? Do I add somebody to the team? And we have to consistently do that, because you always want the dynamic to be in balance, so to speak. Because when it's out of balance, things don't get done, right? You can't perform well, relationship wise, process wise, execution wise. Like, all of those things have to be in balance for to have flow. And I think that's
Mm,
something that a lot of people may not consider. They want to, you might feel bad if you start with this partner. And I could call on any company, Apple. The guy
right.
who started Apple, the two guys, one elevated and the other one took his money and left. It happened with Twitter, I believe, and it happened with Instagram. Because it always takes more than one person to create something, but not everybody can be at the helm of that thing. And I think we have to also understand what our role is. Where do you fit in best? So if you're not performing in the role that you have, then you need to shift. Shift is necessary, you know? So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, I love that. So then here's the question with that. Shift is necessary, but what do you do when you have intimate relationships? You know, you go into a journey with someone, and you guys have seen each other grow in that first stage, right? And then now you're elevating to another stage, and you know, how do you prevent yourself from holding on? You know, how do you then delineate and say, okay, you know what, it is time to go? Is it as simple as just saying, okay, now it's time for me to shift? Or is there more thought to it? I don't know.
That would totally depend on how the business structure is set up. But I always believe, I have been in business twice with friends, and I will tell you that I'm not sure I'm going to do that again.
Okay.
Only because people's emotions and personalities get in the way, like you were just saying. And I think it's sometimes hard when you're invested emotionally to walk away and say, you know what, this is not in my best interest or your best interest. It's better we just kind of separate. That's always the hard part. And sometimes you just end up not saying anything at all. But I believe in hindsight that if you're both adults, you have to talk about it. You have to talk about the hard stuff, especially when it comes to running a business. You know, we have this old adage that says there's no friendship in business. There isn't. You have to think business when you're in business, even with a friend. So I'll give you an example. When you start that business, you have to create a contract. Both people should sign the contract, and the contract should say, these are the terms by which we will operate. And if you or I usurp the terms of that contract, these are the things that will happen. If you have that guide to even start with, guess what? No, there's no fight. There's no need for emotionality. There's no need for, because we both understood that this was the basis on which we would operate from the very beginning. And I think that's where we fail. We always think as entrepreneurs that we have a side hustle. We need to stop calling it that, because even though you might have your 9 to 5 or your mainstay that pays your bills, this thing that you're trying to grow, it should not be considered a side hustle. That's a bad mindset to even start with, because you're always going to be side hustling. You're not really going to be building.
I love what you just said. So this is one thing I've been thinking about, and also trying to adjust within myself as well, is having a mindset of this is a business, not a side hustle, and I need to operate as a business. So I think that's key, because I struggle with that too. And then the second thing I love about what you said is defining what this business relationship looks like from the beginning, and establishing that and being firm with it to say, hey, this is the dynamics of this relationship, and these are the guidelines in which we have to operate. And if there's any deviation, it's very clear and straightforward.
Exactly. It's a legal contract. So we have to abide by this. And we should all have legal counsel once we're doing things like this. That's the first thing for everybody. We start businesses because we start making money. You start making hair products, you start making some money on the side because all your friends and family want to buy. But then when it becomes the real business savviness of that business, you don't know how to operate, because all you've been doing is just selling to your family and friends. You don't know how to get into a real franchise. You don't know how to get affiliates. You don't know how to get them to now, if they become employees, how they must act, because they're still thinking, I'm friends and family. Don't I get a discount? Don't you pay me more than the next person? No, this is a business. And these are the terms. If you go to work for Target or you go to work for anybody else, you can't tell them what to pay you, and you can't tell them when you want to come in and when you want to leave. There are rules. So you have to treat your business like if you're already a Target, already a Walmart, already a Instagram, you got to see that vision. It's got to be so big that you start operating as if you're that big.
Okay. So I think that's one of the key takeaways for me here is essentially when I'm going into this thing, I need to make a decision within myself whether I'm going to be serious about this or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm serious about this, I need to start operating as a business from the beginning. How do I get my ducks in a row? What are the
Right.
things that I need to have in place legally as well, right? How are we establishing this relationship? Let's define it. Okay, I love that. So let me ask all about the sisters. Can you tell us a little bit about it, what you're doing, just how did it start? What's your vision and your goal for All About the Sisters?
Okay, so All About the Sisters is a community of Black women who really share a sense of belonging and commitment to being well. I know a lot of Black women struggle with feeling like they don't belong to wellness spaces or communities, and it's probably because they don't. We don't. The message out there is a one size fit all, and it doesn't work for us because as Black women, we need extra care and attention. And so our mission here at All About the Sisters is to really pioneer this movement that makes more Black women and girls feel included and cared for. So we are sharing insights, we are presenting solutions, we are hosting virtual events that really encourage Black women to put their wellness first. We started in like 2016, 2017. And the idea for the movement at that time, everybody was talking about self-care. That was the latest buzzword. It was self-care. And we thought we'd create this space for radical self-care for women of color to thrive in. So in partnership with a close friend of mine, we started hosting hikes to upstate New York. We hosted Sunday meetups that we kind of dubbed In the Living Room, where we would meet with moms on Sunday evening to distress and talk about self-care and to meditate and to just vibe away from their kids and their spouses. And that was the beginning of where All About the Sisters really started. There was some downtime because my friend and I moved to two different boroughs, and it was really hard to like get around at the time. And so in 2020, when the pandemic started, I said, look, what do you do? I asked myself, I said, Mel, what do you do best? And I said, you're right. You can deliver news because that's research. That's your thing. You're in your element when you do that. What do people need right now? People need information. So I restarted it as a digital platform, really sharing COVID-19 information. Anything I could find. If there were areas where you could go get tested, any news that was coming out, I was sharing that. I remember even there was news about where homeless people could find shelter during the pandemic, because now we don't want people to be outside on the streets because then they're more vulnerable. Victims of domestic violence, where can they go? I started putting up shelters that were taking people, taking sick children, it was all of this stuff. And it was just like, it was overwhelming for me because I was like, oh my gosh, this is worldwide and this is serious. But I was happy to share. And then I started getting into writing blog posts, and then I started a podcast, and because I wanted to figure out who are these Black women that championing wellness for other Black women or other Black people. Where are these people? Where are they showing up? What are they doing? We should know about them. Because if we don't know about them, it means we're not supporting them or tapping into our Black wellness community. And then all of a sudden that became the thing. People built $1 million businesses off of just putting up Black products, and then everybody was into Black products. And I'm like, Black is becoming a thing. So I think All About the Sisters was out in front. But like I said, when you're small and you don't have the resources, you kind of don't have the reach. So I have seen, but also for us, we want a very organic growth and very authentic, because we want the people who support us and come to us to actually believe in what we are doing. We just don't want the likes and the follows and the stuff just on a fad, because that fad is going to go away. So we really target Gen Xers, because Gen Xers have been taught by boomers, and we all know boomers have issues when it comes to communication. They have issues when it comes to real emotionality. I grew up in a Caribbean household where we didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about a lot of things. I didn't know some of the things that my mom went through. She shared the overall thing she went through, but she never really went into deep about how she felt about it, how other people received it, and if they had a conversation about it. So a lot of family secrets we hold inside and we die with it. And I'm like, no, we have to get out of that. We have to start sharing with, we have to start speaking to each other. And so that's the sort of idea or vision I have for this community, in terms of being well. And our motto is be better at being well, because I think that's where we can fit into the whole wellness idea. Wellness for some people is about getting a mani-pedi every day. That's not the essence of true wellness. Wellness is supposed to be a little deeper than that. Are you healing from the inside out? So we started talking to a lot of mental health therapists who have been on my podcast and have been on the Monday live chats that we host. And so we are planning workshops. We are planning to continue our conversations. And when we can get back together, we are planning in-person retreats. It's going to be a whole host of really helping Black women to heal in every aspect, holistically.
I enjoy, this is more a note not for Mel, but actually for the audience. I've been or participated in a few of Mel's discussions. She has a session every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern where she interviews a subject matter expert. This season, the focus has been on really healing, right? And especially internal healing. I know that Mel is championing where the money resides and showing us where that is, but which I'm looking forward to. But as we go there, she's really just held, I think, the forefront in championing healing for us, making sure we're internally healing, dealing with grief, dealing with domestic violence, finding different. I think Gina Rodriguez. I don't want to say it was Rodriguez.
De Los Santos.
Gina De Los Santos. Please forgive me. I'm thinking about the actress. Gina De Los Santos. Her session was really powerful. I really enjoyed that session that she had. And, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go back and rewatch this again and take notes. It's important for us as women to have therapy, to seek different ways and strategies of coping and processing things. And it was a great breakdown and just introspective view, and also resources that it was a huge takeaway for me. I enjoyed that session. And I just love what you're doing with All About the Sisters. I love the energy. I love it. It is very organic, and as a woman of color, I do feel like there's a place for me there, and I love the fact that it's dynamic. It's not just one-sided. We're not just focusing on, okay, how do we make money, which we will get there, but there is really a true sense of well-being. We want us to be well from the inside out and to have the tools to really make sure that we are well, like for real well, not just outwardly, So I enjoy that. What's your vision for All About the Sisters? 2022, 2025, where are we going?
I want us to be worldwide, hitting continents, having different groups represented. I think when we first had this vision back in 2016, the idea was to have different pods all around the United States, but also touching down in Africa, touchdown in the UK, touchdown. We have different ones in the Caribbean. So it will be like different pods of us that organize locally, but we are all one, in the diaspora. And I think that's where I want us to be, holding a huge conference, the All About the Sisters conference, where it's just wellness extraordinaire. Everything packed into like a week or weekend or something like that. To the likes of what maybe Black Enterprise does. And, I'm thinking big because Earl Graves was Caribbean and he built a Black Enterprise, into what it is today, with a small vision to just have a news media company. And so that for me is I can operate in my element because, like I said, I'm really versed that I've been writing for a long time. So I'm really versed in that. Um, I know news. I'm really interested in research. So I read a lot and I research a lot of things. So I can bring that to the forefront. But, and if there's anybody out there who has some expertise and they want to lend it to All About the Sisters, we are welcome. It could be a blog post. It could
Awesome.
be anything. We welcome that. So.
All right. Thank you. Okay, I have one last question for you. What was an expensive lesson that you learned in 2020? And it doesn't have to be monetary, but 2020, pandemic, all this stuff going on. What was one expensive lesson that you learned?
Oh, very expensive lesson. Your health is your wealth. And I say that because I am a person who never really liked traditional medicine. So I never liked going to a traditional doctor. And so for many years, I would do the bare minimum when it came to my health because I was always well. I came from Florida and I was in optimal health there. I went to see a holistic doctor there who kept me at almost 100% all of the time. And then when I came to New York, it was different because healthcare is a little different here. And it's expensive. And when you don't have those resources, it's really hard to tap into a system. And so you think, I'll do it when I get to it. But your body tells you that it needs it now. Your body really, really tells on you. And so 2020 was really given over to my health. It was very ironic because here I was starting off the year in March when the pandemic started, trying to help other people get their shit together, their wellness together. And that mirror turned right around on me. And for the entire year, my health was in focus. And I have spent so much money back and forth doing different things just to be able to get the kind of healthcare that I needed, but I needed to have it. And so now I'm feeling much better. I'm not at 100% yet. I'll get there, but I am in a physical healing mode that I know in about 3 to 6 months, I'm going to be fine. I have, really started. I've always really watched what I eat, but I've really started paying particular attention to foods that make me feel really good. Like not eating too much bread in the morning time for breakfast. Because, when you grow up in the Caribbean, you eat bread all the time, bread for breakfast, bread for lunch, you can have a sandwich at any time. But my body is telling me at my age that I cannot do that anymore. Cannot have bread every day. You cannot have bread 2-3 times a day. So you have to pick. So maybe I have bread 2 or 3 times a week and I only have sourdough bread. So it's those little things that I started to pay attention to. But it costs to get here. It costs a lot to get here. So that was a very expensive, and which is why, again, I have to champion wellness, because the wellness is not just the healing from the inside, the mental health, the everything. It's everything. It's your job. When your boss doesn't edify you and make you feel great, it's not a great work environment. That takes a toll on your mental health. It takes a toll on your physical health. So you have to be aware of all of those things. Your relationship with your partner, like, what does that look like? Is that healthy? It's all of those things. So, life is like this revolving door. It's like,
Yeah.
it keeps turning, and at every turn you have to manage the expectations of everything that you're doing, and the people that come in and the people that leave. And so life is active. And so that's why we have to be well. We have to be well and sound in mind, body, and soul, So.
You know what? I'm going to follow up with one last question. So with this rotation, right, of life happening and things going on, how do you manage that rotation? How do you manage the rotation of life, the people coming in and out, just life itself, the different things? How do you balance? Is there balance?
There is balance, but I'll say this, and I got this from Amanda Seals on a blog post I did last week for All About the Sisters. She said in an interview that she only does what she can handle. So if you set a limit for what you can handle and that's it, you don't go beyond that. it's like you set the boundary for everything. You set the boundary in your relationships, you set the boundary in your finances, you set the boundary in life in general, and you don't go beyond that. So family can't come in and bring their problems to you. Friends can't, monopolize your time. Work can get you to be working even though you work from home 24 hours a day. No, you have to set the boundaries, and you have to kind of know yourself and know what you can handle. It's self-awareness. If I cannot handle this, I take a break. If family has too much drama going on, I take a back seat, because this is as much as I can handle. And people just have to respect that,
I
That's
love
it.
that. So, okay, so setting up boundaries and then respecting your own boundaries.
Yep.
I like that. Awesome. Mel, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want our audience to know? How do they find you? Any key points you want to just hone in? Give it out there. I'll also put your information in the show notes as well.
Sure.
So how do we find you?
I am on Instagram. It's my favorite social media platform, at Mel Motivates, MELL Motivates. I'm also on there as at All About THA Sisters, All About the Sisters. My website is melanypaynter.com, and on there you'll just see me doing website writing. That's what I do. I do help aspiring authors tell their stories and publish their works. So I do that aspect of things, but I also have the wellness piece, which is all about the sisters, THE Sisters. And so you can find me there as well. So connect with me any which way. I'm also on Facebook, Mel Paynter, or Mellany Paynter, as my business is called. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
DM
we
me.
didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to say DM me, send me a note, drop me a line, get on All About the Sisters newsletter, because it's awesome. And you're going to get a lot of information every week, things that you think you knew and what you didn't know. So I'm looking forward.
Thank you. So one thing I wanted to mention that Mel didn't mention, or at least really emphasize, is that Mel also works on websites as well. She's very good at that. She'll manage your website on the back end. She's also good at consulting as it pertains to setting up or strategizing your website as well. She's phenomenal in that space also. Just one of her other key.
Listen, that creative entrepreneurship. It's got 10 different means of income. You gotta know how to get to the bag at the end of the day. So,
but just to really put it out there, she really knows how to work a website and strategize from the fundamentals of it. She's what I like about Mel, especially when it comes to the technical aspect too, is that you won't just hire her and she just is here to design the website. There's concept behind it. There's theoretical thought. And then there's also the concept of, I want to say conversion, like what's your idea and what's your vision and how does that translate and what is the message that you're trying to send out and the emotion that you're trying to evoke and how do you want to communicate and connect to your audience. So she's holistic in that space. It's truly web design. So I love that she's very talented in that space as well.
Thank you, Chanda.
All right, Mel, of course.
This was awesome.
No, it was beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm grateful. I'm really, really, truly grateful.
Anytime.
So, guys, thank you. Thank you so much. This is Mellany. Please connect with her. And until next time, take it easy.
Bye.